The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane, Chapter 16. Confrontation. It was the morning of the East Anglican Football Championship, and Emmy's breakfast looked about as appetizing as a canned cat food on toast. "You've got to eat a proper meal," Lola said as she dumped more sausage on Emmy's plate. Some kind of yellowish goo oozed out of one of the sausages. "How is this a proper breakfast?" "Protein." Emmy wrinkled her nose. "I think I'll stick with the eggs. And don't forget your carbs." Lola stuffed a bagel into Emmy's mouth. "Good for energy. You're going to need it if you're going to make it through all 6 matches today." Emmy pulled the bagel out of her mouth as Natalie and Jaya joined them in the food line. Natalie was already wearing her soccer uniform. "You nervous?" Jaya asked. "Just a little," Emmy said. She'd never played 6 matches in one day. It was definitely the biggest tournament she'd ever been in. "I would be too," Jaya said. "That's why I never tried football." Natalie snorted. "That and you wouldn't be caught dead in a smelly uniform." Jaya made a face. "That too. My tray's getting heavy. Let's go sit down," Lola said to Emmy. See you on the pitch, Nat." Natalie and Jaya both smiled and kept piling food onto their plates. "Hey, look who it is." Lola nodded her head toward a table. Jack's brother Vincent was sitting there, talking with some boys from Latin Society. "What's he doing here again?" Lola shrugged. "Maybe he really misses school. Enough to come up here on weekends? And I bet he had to miss work when I saw him at Latin Society. Nobody likes their old school that much." They sat down at a table and Emmy ripped off a chunk of her bagel. There had to be a reason Vincent kept hanging around the school. But what? Jack slid into a seat next to them. "Morning," he was grumbling. Emmy winced. Thanks to them breaking into the school office, Jack was being sent home for the weekend for extra study time. "Did you see your brothers here?" Lola asked. Jack nodded. "Yeah, I saw him talking to Malcolm yesterday. Hasn't bothered to say hi to me, though." "Sorry," Emmy said. Jack took a gulp of juice and rolled his eyes. "I'm used to it. Anyway, I was wondering," he leaned closer to Emmy. "That box of yours, can I get a little closer look at it?" "Sure. Victoria has some kind of club on Monday afternoons. You could come up to my room and..." "Actually," he said sheepishly, "I was kind of hoping I might be able to take it home with me this weekend." Emmy twisted her fingers together. Letting him look at it was one thing, but giving it to him to take home? She wasn't sure about that. What for?" "My dad has loads of books about analyzing art and antiques. They talk about how to figure out what period an object is from, what its purpose was, and all that kind of stuff. I thought maybe if I took the box with me, I could find out more about it." "I don't know if it's a good idea," Emmy said. "Your dad belongs to the order. He's away on business right now. It's just my mom at home, and Malcolm's not coming along. Don't worry, it's totally safe." Well, that did sound like a good idea. Emmy was definitely tempted. She hadn't found out anything new about her dad or in the order in weeks, but handing the box over to someone else wasn't something she was excited about, even if it was just Jack. "I understand if you don't want to," Jack said, but he did look a bit hurt. No, it's fine," Emmy said. She couldn't stand the idea of making this weekend even worse. At least this way he'd have something to do other than homework, and who knew? He might stumble across some useful information. Jack grinned. "Great!" Half an hour later, Emmy was in the common room giving Jack a plain brown bag with a box inside. Felt like saying goodbye to an old friend. "I'll treat it like gold," Jack promised. Something twanged in Emmy's chest, but she ignored it. It wasn't like she was handing over her firstborn child. It was just a box. As Jack went out the door to meet his dad's car, Victoria came flying down the stairs and made a beeline for Emmy. Okay, where is it? Where is it?" Emmy groaned and flung her gym bag over her shoulder. The bus was about to leave for the football tournament. She didn't have any time for drama. "Where's what?" "Where is the locket my mum sent from Paris? I know you've taken it. Now hand it over." "I've never seen it," Emmy said. "You nasty little liar. You tell me where it is." "Oh, come on. Not today." Lola stormed down the staircase. "Just ignore her, Emmy. We've got to get going." Victoria threw her body in front of the door. "You're not going anywhere until you give me my locket." "She already told you she didn't have it, so shove off." The door to Madame Boyd's study flew open. "Oh, great. Now you've done it," Lola muttered. "What on God's green earth is going on out here?" Madame Boyd said. Victoria pointed a bony finger at Emmy. "She's a thief. She stole my locket and she's pretending not to know anything about it." "That is a very serious accusation," Madame Boyd turned to Emmy. "I don't know anything about her locket. I've never even seen it. So how can I have taken it?" "I see. And what proof do you have of your accusation, Miss Stuart Bevington?" "It was on my dresser last night. Now it's not there." Madame Boyd pursed her lips. "Is that all?" "What more do you need?" Victoria asked. "She's the only person who's been in our room since, and I took it off last night. She would have had plenty of time to take it while I was at yoga this morning." I left before you did. I had an early breakfast because I need to get on the bus with the rest of the team. "And they're probably waiting for us by now," Lola said. "All right, let's hurry this along," Madame Boyd said. "Miss Stuart Bevington, I'm sure the loss of such an item is difficult for you, but there's no proof that Miss Willick took it. But anyone could have entered your room while you were both out this morning, not to mention the possibility that it may have slipped behind the dresser or been misplaced." "I didn't." "I suggest you do a thorough search of your room today. I believe the rest of you have to catch a bus." Victoria grudgingly moved out of the way, and Emmy had Lola hurried to the bus. The bumpy bus ride wreaked havoc with Emmy's stomach. Why did she have so much breakfast? Why did she join this team? What made her think she could play the soccer with kinds of teams that they would be facing today? These were the best teams in Southeast England. She should have just stayed home and done something productive, like doing homework or eating chocolate. An hour later, she was standing on the sidelines listening to God Save the Queen, the British national anthem. Her mouth was so dry she couldn't have sung even if she had known the words. The school banner Manila was carrying made Emmy's heart flutter more than the flag did. She'd barely seen any of Britain since she'd been there. She couldn't summon up a lot of loyalty to the flag, but Wellsworth, that was real. That was home. That was something she could be proud to represent. The song ended and the crowd cheered. Emmy's knees started to quake. She jumped up and down a few times and slapped her legs. She had to get a hold of herself. She took her position and waited. Then the whistle blew. The crowd roared, sending a rush of heat and energy through her veins. That was where she was meant to be. Wherever plots of order might have, whatever happened at Latin Society, none of it mattered as long as she was on this pitch. For a fleeting moment, Emmy wondered if her father had felt this way before a rugby match. Then the ball came toward her, and she forgot all about him. The first two matches were easy wins, but the third was tough. The Whittaker team was scrappy, and they had risen to Wellsworth level today. Finally, Merriam scored the winning goal in the last 10 minutes of play. The final match was what everyone had expected, Wellsworth versus St. Mary's. An official ushered the teams to the largest pitch where the match would take place under the big stadium lights. The crowds had gotten bigger throughout the day, and by now the stands were overflowing. Emmy gulped. There sure were a lot of people wearing St. Mary's blue. Lola took a swig of water and handed Emmy a fresh bottle. "Remember, their keeper has got a weak leg side. She's pretty good at reading the ball off her foot, though, so wait until the last moment to set up your shot." "Okay, stay away from the keeper's right," Lola said. "You'll never beat her there." "Right. And stay away from their defenders because they'll bash your ankles without the officials ever seeing a thing." Within 5 minutes of the first whistle, it was obvious that Lola hadn't been exaggerating. The St. Mary's side was rough. Natalie's ankle was already swelling like a softball, but she didn't want to use up a substitution to get it checked out. 10 minutes later, Dylan took an elbow to the face, but it was behind the play of the official didn't see it. By halftime, most of the team was battered and bruised, but they managed to keep the St. Mary's forwards in check. The score was 0-0. "Better keep an eye out," Lola warned Emmy. "You've had the last chances so far, so they're going to make yours the target now." Lola was right. Every time she touched the ball, Emmy was swarmed by 2 or sometimes 3 people. But the Wellsworth defenders were just as solid, and when they headed into stoppage time, there was still no score. Emmy was running slower and breathing harder now, and she wasn't the only one. Both teams kept turning the ball over, but no one seemed to be able to get it out of the midfield. Finally, Lola got past her defender and moved the ball up the pitch. Emmy sprang forward. It might be their last chance before extra time. She moved into the box and made sure she knew where the last defender was. "Stay outside, Emmy! You've got to stay outside!" Lola kicked the ball forward and Emmy ran to meet it, reached back and wham! She hit the ground hard and clutched her knee. felt like someone had bashed it with a 2x4. She looked up and saw St. Mary's defender looking down at her with a smug grin. "Oops," the girl said. Emmy's eyes were watering. She'd never been kicked like that hard before. She looked around for the official. This had to be worth a foul. Finally, the official came over. "You all right?" Emmy nodded. "Good," she said curtly. Then she reached into her pocket, pulled out a yellow card, and pointed it to the goal. Emmy glared at the St. Mary's defender and smirked. She was going to get a penalty shot. Emmy rubbed her aching knee. She had to numb the pain, or she wouldn't even be able to get up, let alone get off a decent shot. Finally, she stood up and took a few painful steps. It was agony, but there was no way she was going to let the St. Mary's keeper know that. She had to tune in to all her teammates' screams, the crowd's cheers, and the pulsing pain in her knee. She stared out at the keeper. Weak left side, but she knows it. That's where she'll expect me to go. The official had placed the ball. It was now or never. She took a deep breath and attacked. She reached back with her right foot, bent her throbbing knee, and kicked. The ball rolled up her toes and curled right. The keeper dove left, and a moment later, the ball was in the back of the net. Yeah! Well, I have to take a sip of tea. Oh, excitement. The common room was boisterous that night. Madame Boyd had left her early. She couldn't exactly approve of their parting, but she didn't seem too interested in stopping it. Even Victoria was in a good mood, and Emmy couldn't help but notice the gold chain dangling from her neck, of course. "I see you found your locket," she said. "Eventually, though I did have to put a lot of effort into looking for it." "Where was it?" "Behind the dresser, and don't bother gloating about it. I'm still not convinced you didn't put it there." Emmy rolled her eyes and took another swig of ginger ale. A few hours later, the party was still in full swing, but Emmy could barely keep her eyes open. "I'm going to bed." "You can't go yet," Natalie protested. "Yeah," Jaya said. "You're the American who won the game. It's not even that late." "Seriously, guys, I'm beat. But I haven't even pulled up my karaoke app yet," Cadell said as he madly tapped away on his phone. Lola gripped Emmy's arm. "You cannot leave me alone down here if Cadell's going to use that app again. Last time he started singing reggae. Ooh, and badly." The other team members begged Emmy to stay, but she was so exhausted. She trudged up the stairs, opened the door to her room, and gasped. It looked like a tornado had ripped through her half of the room. Everything had been dumped out of her suitcases. The mattress had been pulled off her bedspread, pillows slashed open, the stuffing littering the floor. Her textbooks were scattered around the room, and some had their pages ripped out of the bindings. Even the pockets of her jeans and blazers had been torn out. Someone had been looking for something, and they were really angry when they did. A pulse started beating in Emmy's temples. Victoria. Who else would do something like this? Who else would destroy all of her things out of spite? Emmy slammed her hand against the door and ran down the stairs. Something had finally snapped. She kept running until she reached Victoria and shoved her so hard she fell back onto the couch. "What's wrong with you? What kind of person would do that over a stupid locket?" The common room was silent, and Victoria stared at Emmy and like she had turned into Sasquatch. "Are you completely mental?" "Me? You're the one who's lost her mind. I don't even know what you're talking about," Victoria shouted. Emmy put her hands on her hips. "Yeah, right. I guess my stuff just trashed itself then." Victoria's jaw dropped, but Emmy just shook her head. Victoria could pretend all she wanted, but Emmy knew what she had done. People started muttering to each other. Victoria pushed past Emmy and raced up the stairs. Most of the girls followed her after her, and even some of the boys went up to see the damage for themselves. Lola passed Victoria on the stairs and reached the room first. She looked inside and swore. Victoria raced in after her and put a shaky hand to her mouth. "Come on," Emmy scoffed. "Your stuff's fine. Of course it's fine. You're the one who did this." Victoria looked straight at Emmy. "I didn't do any of this." "Oh, really? You're the one who was complaining about how much effort it took to find your locket." I was talking about the effort it took to move the dresser," Victoria protested. "I know it was you, so don't even bother trying to weasel out of this one." "All right, that's enough." Lola pushed Emmy and Victoria away from each other and stood in between them. "It's a good thing my mum's already gone back to the teacher dorms, or you'd both be in for a big trouble. We're not going to figure this out tonight, so everyone should just go to bed." "I don't have a bed," Emmy said. "Arabelle went home for the weekend, so you can sleep in my room," Lola said. But Lola pressed her hand on Emmy's shoulder. Emmy, let's just leave it for now. She was talking quietly now, and her voice was serious, almost urgent. Come on, let's just go to bed. Half an hour later, Emmy pulled on a pair of Lola's pajamas and yanked the covers off Arabella's bed. I don't know what she's bothering to deny it. I don't know, Lola said. That's pretty extreme, even for Victoria. But we know she was looking for that stupid locket today, and the person who ransacked my room was definitely looking for something. And her stuff was totally fine. Not a single one of her things was out of place. I know, but Victoria never does anything that could actually get her into trouble. Besides, doing that much damage to your stuff would have been very hard work. That's not exactly Victoria's style. But who else could it have been? Lola sat down on her bed and drummed her fingers on the pillow. I keep thinking about what my mum told us about keeping your dad a secret. What about it? Lola shifted uneasily. You said Brian was there when you told Jonas about your dad. Yeah, it takes a lot to put my mum off, and she was really rattled when she found out who your dad was. If she's nervous about people finding out about him, there has to be a really good reason. You think someone from the order ransacked my room? Victoria's just not that good of an actress, Lola said. She was completely shocked when she saw your stuff. I really don't think it was her. And it's like you said, who else could it have been? Emmy put her head on Arabella's pillow and pulled the covers up to her chin. What do you think they were looking for? She asked, even though she already knew the answer. Lola paused. I think it's a good thing Jack had your dad's box today. Yeah! It's getting good, guys.